Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marie. I'm a graphic designer, and in today's Adobe Illustrator tutorial we will design this Cupid bow illustration. So open Illustrator. Let's start by selecting the spiral tool. Click anywhere on the artboard and start dragging to create your spiral. When you're happy on the size, just let go. Here is the first part of our design. We are going to modify this by cutting it and deleting this smaller part here inside of the spiral. You can also draw a spiral by using the spiral tool tab. So select the spiral tool here, then click anywhere on the artboard. If you can't see it, keep this little arrow pressed and you'll get this little menu. Click anywhere on the artboard and you will get the spiral tab, where you can select the direction of your spiral, the number of segments you want it to have, the radius, and the decay. So I'm going to click cancel because I already have what I need. So I'm just going to go with the standard spiral. Then I'm going to select the scissor tool, which also, if you can't see, keep the eraser tool clicked until you get the little menu. So I'm going to cut right here on this anchor point by clicking with the scissor tool. And then I'm going to delete the inner part of the spiral because this part that's left is all I want for my design. To delete a selected segment or line or object, just select it and click delete on the keyboard. So now that we have the first part of our design, we are going to add a curved line down here to draw the top part of our bow. To do this, I'm going to select the ellipse tool, which is under the rectangle tool menu if you can't find it, or just click L on your keyboard. So I'm going to select the ellipse tool, click on the artboard, and start dragging while holding Alt if you want to draw your shape from the center, and also hold Shift while holding Alt if you want your ellipse to be a circle. When you have the size you want, just let go. So again, I'm going to select the circle and use the scissor tool to cut it. So I'm going to click on this anchor point on the right, and then I'm going to click up here. Use the direct selection tool to select the part of the circle I want to delete, and click delete on the keyboard. So now I have this curved line that I'm going to connect to the first shape that derives from the spiral we created. So to connect two anchor points, select the first anchor point using the direct selection tool. Select the second anchor point while holding Shift, and then hit Ctrl J on the keyboard, and it's going to connect the two anchor points by adding a line. Since this anchor point is kind of on an angle, I'm going to select it and pull that little white circle to turn it into a rounded corner. So now we have the top part of our bow, which we obviously have to complete by adjusting the width and other parts. But let's continue by adding the other elements for now. So we're going to draw a line, which is going to be our arrow. I'm going to use the pen tool, but you can also use the line tool. So I'm going to select the pen tool, click to create the anchor point, first anchor point of my line, and by holding Shift, I'm going to move the pen tool in a straight line Shift will lock the line into being straight, and click again to create the second anchor point. And I have this straight line that is perfectly aligned with the bottom of the first line that I drew. So an easy way to create an arrow, you select the line, go to the stroke panel, and you can add arrowheads. You select the arrowhead that you want. You can add one to the left and one to the right, and you can adjust the scale to make your arrowhead larger or smaller. Now I'm going to add the other arrowhead on the right side, which you can't see at the moment because it's covered by this panel. I'm just going to select this one, for example, scale it up, and here we go. So this is an easy way to create an arrow, which I have a tutorial on just this, which I will link. But for this tutorial, I'm going to design my own arrow. So I'm going to change the arrowheads back to none and just leave this simple line like it is for now. So now let's select this line, which is the top part of our bow. While it's selected, change the stroke width to 20 points. Then go here to the width tool, and then click and drag the parts of the line that you want to adjust the width. So I'm going to make the end of the line really small so it ends in a point. Then I'm going to change the width in the circle part here to make it a little bit larger. Again, here I'm going to make it a little bit thinner. So we get this effect of a pointy end. Then it gets larger as it turns. And then the line gets thin again here, the beginning of the big curve. And there we go. Okay, if you want to make any more adjustments, just go back to the width tool and go on the parts of your line that you want to adjust the width. And just drag. Drag outwards to make it larger, inwards to make it thinner. To make the bottom part larger, I'm going to move this line while holding shift to keep it aligned when I move it. And then I'm going to select the top part of the bow again, use the width tool to make the bottom part larger. I had to move the other segment so that it didn't select that instead. And this looks about right. Okay, I like it. As I said, you can always modify it again if you like. So now I'm going to select the pen tool again, click here, and draw a line that's kind of an angle, which is going to be our string or rope, whatever you want to call it. So again, use the pen tool, click once to create your first anchor point, click again a second time to create your second anchor point. And your line will be created in between the two anchor points. So now, since I am satisfied with this top part of the bow, I know I won't be making any more modifications to this line. So I'm going to select it, go to Object, Expand Appearance. So now I turned it into a shape. It's no longer a line. And I'm going to change the fill color to this pink, this bright pink. All right, I will add a gradient later on. So now we have this line here, which as I said is the string, which I'm also going to change the stroke color to this orange so it gives a gold effect. And now we're going to add the loop, which is where the string is tied. I'm going to use the ellipse tool to create this small ellipse. Then I'm going to drag while holding Alt to make a dragged copy. And by combining these two ellipse shapes, I'm going to create a new shape. So I'm going to make sure that they're positioned where I want them. There we go. I'm going to select both of them, go to the Shape Builder tool, and hold Alt and click on the parts of the shape that I want to delete. So now I'm left with this moon shape here, which I'm going to scale down and move a little bit so that it fits perfectly on the bow here. There we go. So now it looks like a loop. I'm going to round the corners a little bit by using the direct selection tool to select the anchor point and then dragging on that white circle to make a rounded corner. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see better. I'm going to scale it some more. Make this a little bit more pointy. And rotate it slightly. Shrink again. Move. There we go. Perfect. So this is our loop where the string is tied. So I'm going to make a dragged copy by selecting, dragging down while holding Alt. And I'm going to slightly change the color of the second loop. There we go. So that is where the string is tied on our bow. Now let's go back to our arrow. So select the line that we previously drew. And we are now going to add the arrowheads. So on the front, we're going to add a heart. And here on the back, we're going to add the back part of our arrow. So let's start by the back part here. Select the rectangle tool and create a rectangle that has the base aligned with our line. Then select the direct selection tool, select this bottom left anchor point and the bottom right anchor point while holding Shift to select the second anchor point. And then we're going to drag them while holding Shift to keep it aligned. We're going to drag them towards the right. There we go. So now we have this shape, which is the back part of the arrow, just the top part though. So I'm going to change the fill color to the same fill color as our bow. Shrink it a little bit while holding Shift so that the base stays on the line. And then once selected, I'm going to select the Reflect tool, then double click to open the Reflect tool panel, select horizontal and copy. So now we made a reflected copy of this shape. Now drag it down while holding Shift to keep it aligned and align the top part with the line. There we go. So now we are going to make a dragged copy of this bottom shape. So select, drag while holding Alt. I'm going to change the color to white and stroke to black so it's more visible, and use the delete anchor point tool to delete the anchor point there on the top left and turn this into a triangle. Again, use the direct selection tool to move the anchor points until we have a shape that we're going to use to cut out. So select both shapes, go to Pathfinder, minus front, and that second shape we created was cut out of our first one. Now, if you don't like the cut, you can use the direct selection tool to move the anchor points around. There we go. So now we have the back part of our arrow. Now we just need to create the front part here, but first we're going to adjust the line. So select the line, and I'm going to right click, arrange, bring to front. Then I'm going to change the stroke width to 5 points, actually 8. And then I'm going to go to the stroke panel here and change the cap to round. Now I'm going to change the stroke color by opening the color picker, and I'm going to select a brownish cream. Actually, I don't like this color here. I'm going to change it to a grayish or light brown. We can always change it later. So now use the direct selection tool to select this anchor point, drag towards the right while holding Shift. Now we're going to add a heart shape here at the front of our arrow. So select the rectangle tool. We're going to create the heart now. I have a tutorial on just this that I will link. So create a rectangle, which we're going to use the eyedropper tool to color the same pink as the bow. Then we're going to select the rotate tool, open the panel, and rotate the rectangle 45 degrees. Now while this is still selected, now go to the reflect tool, and we're going to reflect vertically and click copy. Now select both shapes and go to the shape builder tool and hold Alt to click on these two parts that we don't need, Alt to delete, and click and drag on the 3 shapes you want to unite. Then I'm going to use the delete anchor point tool to delete this extra anchor point that we don't need. Now use the direct selection tool to select these 4 anchor points, and we're going to round the corners. And here is our heart shape. Now select the heart, rotate it while holding Shift. Hold Shift to lock it and rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to drag it here and add it to the beginning of our arrow. Shrink while holding Alt, scale down while holding Alt to scale from the center. And now we just need to make a few adjustments and flip the top part of the bow to the bottom. So I added a stroke to the heart here, and then I changed the stroke width to 3 points. While the heart is still selected, you can go to the gradient tab here, and you can add a gradient to the stroke if you like. And you can also add a gradient to the fill. So select, to add it to the stroke, just select the stroke here in this panel, and you can add the gradient colors you want. You can also decide to change the stroke style with these 3 options up here. Just play around and see what fits your design best. I don't like this effect, so I'm going to go back to the first one. And if you want to go back, you can click Control Z, and it will annul your last step. Still playing around with the colors here. Make sure that your shape is selected when you use the gradient tool. Otherwise, your modifications won't be applied. So when I'm finished with my design, as I usually do, I'm going to convert the strokes to shapes. So in this case, I'm going to select this line here, go to Object, Expand. So now this is a shape as well. And I'm going to change the fill color to this lighter brown. Actually, I'm going to add a gradient to the arrow as well. I'm going to change the gradient to vertical by putting 90 degrees here. And then I'm going to move the colors around until I get the gradient I want. So I'm going to add darker colors on the top and the bottom, and then lighter color in the center. So it looks like it has a depth. Adjust the colors here. Make it more brown. Obviously, I didn't prepare the colors before I started this tutorial. Now, the only line we have left is this one of the string. So I'm going to change the stroke width to 3. For now, I'm not going to convert it to shape yet. I'm going to first add a gradient to the top part of the bow. That way, once we're done with this, we can flip it and create the bottom part, which is missing. So I'm going to use these pink colors for the bow. You can change the gradient type from radial to linear. And then you can use the gradient tool to change the direction and the size of your gradient. Again, I'm going to make like the top part a little bit darker and the bottom part, which is actually the center part of our bow, a little bit lighter. I'm also going to add a slight gradient to these 2 loops here. I'm going to make them the same color as the rope. Stay slight. Color change between the 2 gradients. This one's going to be lighter. This loop here is going to be lighter. The bottom one, let me try putting the same gradient, but then you can't tell the difference, so I'm going to make this one a little bit darker. This is too dark. I'm going to make it a little bit lighter. All right, we're almost at the end of this tutorial. We just need to fix the colors here and we're done. So just slightly darker, just so you can tell the difference. Otherwise they look exactly alike. They can't be too different though, because then they'll look like two different materials. All right, so I'm gonna select this line here, go to Object, Expand, okay. Select this, I'm gonna expand as well because I added a stroke to it. So now we have no strokes in our illustration here. So I'm gonna select all the elements that are part of the top part of the bow, go to the Reflect panel, select horizontal and copy. Drag down while holding Shift. And select the two parts of the front part of the bow and group them together. Arrange, send to back. All right. Select the two strings, arrange, send to back. These two, if you want, you can unite them into one shape by selecting both of them, going to Pathfinder Unite. But then you're going to have to readjust the gradient. So I'm just going to leave them two separate shapes. You can still modify any anchor point if you like. I'm just going to leave it like this for now. And I'm going to use the pen tool to add one last part here, which is a line here, which is centered with our arrow. I'm going to add the same gradient as the arrow stick, change the width, the stroke width to like 40. And adjust the stroke gradient. As I said, you can use the gradient tool to modify the gradient verse. So this is a line still. So I'm going to go to Object, Expand. Oh, wait. So since this is a stroke, we just need the stroke color. So I'm going to change the fill to none, select it, go to Object, Expand, select all the angles, the corners, and change them to rounded corners. And now while it's selected, I'm going to use the eyedropper. Click on the arrow stick to get the same gradient colors. All right. Now I'm going to do one last modification, which is to select all the parts that compose the arrow and the two strings. Go to Arrange, Send to Back. So now the back part of the arrow is in front of the string and the front part of the arrow is behind the bow. We are at the end of this tutorial. I'm just going to make a few adjustments to some of the gradients here, but besides that, the video is finished. I hope you enjoyed it. As you can probably tell, this video was not pre-prepared as most of my videos. I just create the designs as I go along. If you enjoyed this video and my other videos, I hope you give me a thumbs up. Follow me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and if you have any questions, just direct message me. Thank you for watching. Bye.